Hello there. My name is Leanne, and I am just diving right into this. I am a flight attendant for an airline. We actually call ourselves cabin crew members now. And this is the yet to be named podcast of my knitting adventures and maybe give you a glimpse into my life on the road as a flight attendant. I've actually been knitting longer than I've been a flight attendant. I started knitting in 2006. And I'm talking hardcore. I had my sister give me a pair of knitting needles and cast on for me because she had taught me when I was about 11, 12 years old. And I haven't looked back. I just can't get enough of it. And it's interesting because I always am blown away by this. I am like, oh, shiny thing. What's going on? What's the next thing? And yeah, with knitting, I have just continued to go deeper and deeper with it. It's never left my side. You might actually unfollow me right off the bat. I am primarily a monogamous knitter. There's something about it. I like to get a project going, finish it to the very end before I pick up another one. And I think we're somewhat rare that way, but I do have two things with me on the road for this trip. And yeah, I don't know where this will go or if it will, but it was one of those things where I was, the hypnopompic state just when you're starting to wake up in the morning. For me, that's a kind of a magical time. And I had this idea of I really think people might find this somewhat comforting and it's not that exciting. Like, my life as a flight attendant in Canada is amazing. But that's because I don't have really, really high expectations. I just enjoy seeing nice and lovely people and traveling around this beautiful country of Canada. I actually do travel down to the United States as well. And the airline I work for also travels over to Europe and into the hot destinations down in the Caribbean and such. So, I mean, there's travel all over. But for me personally, I'm content to stay within my domestic flying schedule, which is usually in Canada. And today I am in a place called Regina, Saskatchewan. It is minus 17 degrees Celsius with wind chill. Not sure what that is for my US friends in Fahrenheit. Let's ask Siri what she says. Hey Siri. Oh, she's not talking to me. Okay. Anyways, if somebody, I could Google it for you, but all you need to know is it's cold and it's actually April, and yeah, we haven't had spring here yet. So, I mean, it's great. It's nice and cozy in here. I brought my knitting with me, and sometimes I have longer layovers and I do explore outside, not necessarily on days when it's this chilly, but when it is cold, I can do a little workout in the gym and have a healthy snack and then cozy down and knit, and it's usually just a great way to end the day. So I hope you find that somewhat interesting. Maybe I can create a community on here. I don't know. All I know is I could talk knitting and do knitting and think about knitting and buy yarn and visit yarn shops for the rest of my life and be quite content. Having said that, I am actually dealing with something really weird. I'm having wrist pain and it's bugging me. I tend to, now as I'm getting closer, my birthday is next month and I will be turning 49 years old. Say what? And I'm feeling some of that. So anyways, as my one friend says, motion is lotion. So why don't we knit? So I don't want to get too fancy with this, but I'm grabbing my tea flask. This sucker does not spill in my flight attendant lunch kit. I got it off Amazon. It's by a company called Fellow, and it's pretty much bulletproof. And I've had a nice locking tea mug, a locking lid on my tea mug, and had it fall all over my lunch kit. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna splurge and get one that won't. So hopefully you have a hot beverage or a beverage of choice and you'll join me in this little adventure. I don't know how far it'll go, but in the meantime, I welcome if you're here watching. Another reason I've started to have this idea of doing this podcast, or what, I don't even know what you call it. Is this a vlog? Like, I don't know. But I sit sometimes in my little office at home and I will watch the most comforting YouTubers like Bee Mandrines and the Knitting Traditions. Anyone who has like the calm, cozy vibe, and then they show me all their knitting, which inspires me to no end. I just like, I'm here for that. So perhaps you'd like to knit with me. What I actually am almost finished, and I should have time to, because my check-in tomorrow morning, this is definitely not the glamorous part of the job. I have to be down in the lobby for the pickup at, oh my gosh, let me see. Yeah, 5:20 a.m. is the departure time. So my wake up, I always get up a good hour before I need to get ready so that I have time to journal and meditate, just get myself in the right frame of mind for the day. I do that when I'm at work or when I'm at home. That's just a big part of my life. And yeah, so I won't be up too late tonight. Right now though, it's only 25 to 4, so I have a couple hours of knitting in front of me. So I actually should be able to finish what I'm working on. This is, I think, my third Lottie Cardigan. I don't know if you've heard of the Lottie Cardigan. It's by Carrie Bostick Hoga, if that's how you say her name correctly. I'm not sure. Yeah, so I'm working on this sleeve. So this is for a 3-year-old, and it's with my own superwash hand dye that I'm as you can tell, I like green. It's my favorite color, and it's just got some like pops of silvery blue in there. This was a part of a little yarn dyeing adventure I had going on this summer. And I'm working the last sleeve here in the round on my little 9-inch circulars. And I didn't get a lot done yesterday. I flew from, it was a long day. It was Calgary, that's my hometown and my base, Calgary, Alberta, down into Houston, and then back to Calgary, and then out here to Regina, Saskatchewan, which is where I am. So very long day, but busy day. And so I didn't have a lot of time to knit. But you know, as some people read while they're on board when they have their break or when it's not service. And for me, that actually makes me a little sleepy, but of course I could knit and stay wide awake. So that's what I do. And yeah, I'm finishing this last sleeve. So I'm gonna work on that and should be able to cast it off and then give it a blocking and gift it to my niece. I have nieces and nephews now that for some reason are in their like 30s, and I don't know how this has happened, but yeah, now I'm a great aunt. And I still like vividly remember like babysitting them, and they babysitting my kids who are also adults now. I have an 18 and a 20-year-old, like, and I just don't know how this has happened. And so I will contemplate while I drink my Bengal spiced tea. No, still a mystery. So I thought maybe it would be interesting to open up questions about knitting and flying. I get quite a few questions on board from people, and I actually make friends on Ravelry for people. I see them knitting on board and I'm like, oh, what are you making? And usually they're like, oh, I'm just making a pair of socks. And then I look down and I'm like, oh, are those the Everyday Socks by Andrea Mary, Dre Renee Knits? And then they kind of look at me and they're like, who is this flight attendant? What is she doing? Why does she know these things? And then we get into these conversations. Obviously, knitters and crocheters, we're everywhere. But how fun is it to get on board an aircraft and be like, I have a solid 4 hours in front of me where I can sit and knit. And yeah, I mean, some people get excited about watching movies. I mean, when I'm working, I'm not sitting there knitting. I do have little breaks here and there, but I mean, when you're going on a trip and you're like, wow, okay, what am I gonna pack? That is one of the most stressful things for me when I go traveling. It's like, okay, I'm gonna be gone for this long. The flight there is gonna be, 4.5 hours. okay, what should I bring for the plane? What am I going to bring for, the hotel or wherever I'm at? These are good problems to have. These are first world problems we had. And I'm very grateful for this traveling part of my life, as I got into this industry in another a wake up in the morning kind of a thing. Is my son was about to turn 5 and my daughter was 7, and I was doing photography as a bit of a freelance gig that I had going on with a local newspaper, and then I was also doing some weddings and product photography. And I don't know about other creatives, but there's something very stressful about pricing yourself when you're a photographer, and then of course the editing time. So I was starting to get a little burnt out, and I woke up and I had this I should apply to be a flight attendant. And I was like, well, that's kind of interesting. Like, it just came out of nowhere. And I went downstairs onto our computer, and there was a job posting for a flight attendant for the airline I work for, and the posting closed the next day. And I thought, wow, okay, that's interesting. And so I mentioned it to my husband, of course, and I thought he'd be like, what? No, that's crazy. Like, our son's just starting kindergarten and our daughter's in grade 2. And when I mentioned it to him, he's like, you'd be so good at that job. That would be awesome. You should totally apply. And I went, okay, I'm gonna go for it. And I did. I uploaded my resume, and I didn't hear anything for weeks. And I was like, okay, must have just been a dream. And then I got a phone call from the recruiter, and she and I had a wonderful phone interview. And right near the end of the interview, she said, okay, well, this is very good. This is going well. And she kind of went into a bit of a description of what it would look like to be a full-time flight attendant. And she explained it to me as like 80 hours away from home at a time. And I just went, oh, I really want to do this job, but I don't know if I can be away from my home for 80 hours a month. What does that look like even? And she kind of described it, saying primarily you'd be gone about 4 days a week. And I was like, that's a lot. And she said, would you consider becoming a part-time, one of our part-time flight attendants? And I was like, what? There is such a thing? What does that look like? Now, that is not a thing anymore. That was like a unicorn offering from the gods. And I said, well, what does that look like? Basically, that was between 50 hours a month, up to 60, but primarily in the lower 50s, which would be about, you'd be gone once a week, but not for as long, right? You could work less. And I said, yeah, I could do that. And the rest is history. That was April. Actually, I just had my 14-year anniversary as a flight attendant, and it was April 7th, 2008. And here I am. Here I am flying the friendly skies and spending my paychecks on wool and yarn. I can do worse things, right? And it also allows me to have some me time, and which is really, really good. I wouldn't have been able to do the job at all had it not been for my mother-in-law, she ran a day home in the neighborhood where we lived, and she would help me out if I would get called out to work. And we hold this thing, what we call up here in Canada, we call it reserve. So I would get a call and basically say, okay, you have an hour to get to the airport and have your bags packed and be ready to go last minute. So my mother-in-law would take the kids, and they'd be in good hands till my husband got home from work. And yeah, it's quite an event. And now that my kids are adults, obviously they need me a lot less in that capacity. And so now I've actually just switched to full-time status starting May 1st, which is next month. So I will be on the road quite a bit, and I'm ready. I'm good for it. Like, I stay pretty healthy out here, and I was off during COVID. They offered voluntary layoffs, and then we got extended layoffs and extended layoffs. And I got recalled in September, and I've been back loving it. Absolutely loving it. I missed my flight attendant family, my crews, our pilots are great as well. And oh, my battery wants to die. maybe that's a hint that I should wrap this up. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to upload this as it is or if I'm going to have to edit a ton, but this is kind of what I envisioned. I know hopefully it's not too boring. And I will try and finish this. It's supposed to be 7 inches from the underarm. So what am I at here? This looks maybe 3. So I got a ways to go. And then I just wanted to show you another project I'm working on. I follow the Woolly Thistle podcast on here, and they have a Hapalong starting. And I am very much an earthy colored person and not too fancy foo-foo when it comes to like color work and stuff, just, you know, a few colors here and there. And so I picked mostly a textured hap called Dunyvaig. I'm trying to say it with an accent. And it is by Kate Davies Designs. I bought the pattern and I was like, I am gonna find myself some Canadian wool and I'm gonna go for it. And I'm gonna try and do the Hapalong with them. All right, here it is. It's gonna be backwards, but how cool is that? Dunyvaig. It's just got like some, what looks like pearl stitches in amongst the stocking net. I mean, that's some classic stuff right there. And I chose Briggs and Little, which is a Canadian mill. And oh, yeah, it's got the lanolin. It's 100% pure wool. This is 1 ply. And I got sheep's gray. And I have a second one at home. It's not wound yet, but I mean, this stuff is just, yeah. It's amazing. It's made in New Brunswick, Canada. So that's my next thing. But again, monogamous knitter here. Got to finish the sleeve, got to cast off the cardi, and then I'll cast this on. I think the Hapalong starts on I think it's the 18th or 19th of April. And as of this recording, it is, what is it, the 13th today? Yes, it's the 13th today. I have to know that. It's another one of my niece's birthdays, so. All right, well, that's my first podcast. I haven't even decided on a name. I was thinking something kind of cute, like the Knitty Stew, Wool in the Clouds. I don't know. I don't want to get too foofy. I just downloaded this fancy app called Spark Camera, and I'm going to try and upload. And if there's any parts that need to be cut out of this, then I will use that app to edit. I'm no pro in that. I mean, I did photography, but I wasn't, definitely not a videographer, so. All right, cheers. And maybe we'll see you next time.